Eagles. Eagles.
Good morning, everybody, and welcome into a Football Friday here on Birds 365. Week 15 in the NFL kicked off last night, and the Philadelphia Eagles will take on the Pittsburgh Steelers this weekend. Johnny Mack. How about that? Birds are 11-2, John. Steelers are 10-3. The Battle of Pennsylvania. How you doing on this Friday morning, Johnny Mack?
Yeah, the Pennsylvania State Championship, as Mike Tomlin called it. So, yeah we'll see. I don't know if Westchester's in that or Kutztown, but it's going to be Eagles Steelers for the Pennsylvania State Championship.
Speaking of the state championship, St. Joe's Prep got the state championship win last week. Mac, yeah,
nice.
They did.
Nice. Yeah. They always do. They're a powerhouse.
They are. They are now a major powerhouse.
I'm surprised you're not a Cowboys, Lakers, Yankees fan. You know?
Well, I'm a little bit of a Yankees fan because my dad was a Yankees fan. He grew up with
you got, I'm joking. You got St. Joe's Prep and you got Alabama. Right. Locally, college, yeah. So, but the Eagles are they're turning into that. So,
well, despite yet.
Well, despite, 10-1, 11-2, it's pretty good.
But all those other teams you mentioned are quantified by their greatness and ultimately reaching
championships. Line. Yes, championships.
I know it's hard, but Johnny Mac, big game this weekend, man. This Steelers game should be a really good one. It's a trench battle. The more I look at the game, it all comes down to the trenches, and boy, they have a damn good defensive line, and the Eagles have a damn good offensive line. There's a lot of talk about the passing game and whether that will get going this week. To me, it all comes down to the trenches this week and how that offensive line can hold up versus that defensive line, because the Steelers, they got some really good players on that D-line. Cam Hayward had 2 sacks last week. They got TJ Watt. Alex Highsmith is like top 5 in the league in pass rush win rate and pressure percentage, so he's really having a good year. It should be a really good trench battle this weekend, John.
Yeah, if you want to boil down every week, it usually comes down to that, but it's not very sexy, so people don't want to talk about it. But I always say you can't play offense if you can't block, number one. So, we see, what is the difference between a good team one year and a good team, a bad team the next year? It's almost always the offensive line, whether it's attrition or something of that nature. That's why Carolina was so weird, because they got a pretty good offensive line and they're a bad football team, which tells me a lot about about what else is going on there, which is not good. But yeah, it usually boils down to that. And when the Eagles, and they've had this over the past really 4 years where, oh, it's the number one rush defense. It's the number one defense. It's the number one pass defense. And they don't care. Doesn't matter. With their offensive line, they think they have the advantage each and every week. Might be a little bit of hubris involved in that, but it's due to demonstrated performance and Lane Johnson's performances and Jordan Lotta's and Landon Dickerson's, et cetera, et cetera. So, and now you add Mekhi Becton to the mix, who's having just a tremendous year moving inside to guard. He stayed healthy for the most part. That's always been a big part of it for him. So they've gotten even better. And yeah, I think, it's more of Pittsburgh. What seems to happen in these types of situations, not that Pittsburgh, I think they're the best front seven in football, but they're used to, feasting, eating, whatever you want to call it, against lesser offensive lines, and then they go up against this offensive line, and it becomes
not so easy to do. Yeah.
Oh boy. So I always like the Eagles when it comes to offensive, defensive front, no matter how good they are. But Pittsburgh's as good as it gets. So, it's a test. It's a big test for the Eagles. But I always, and maybe I'm a little biased in that category, but I always lean towards the Eagles' offensive line.
Yeah, I think this Eagles offensive line has earned the benefit of the doubt there, Johnny Mac. I want to thank everybody for being here this morning and welcome in to everybody. Week 15 in the NFL kicked off last night, Johnny Mac. Boy, we may got a little bit of drama in Philly this week, but at least we're not the San Francisco 49ers.
Yeah, I'm glad you brought
Holy
that
shit.
up. I'm glad you brought that up. It's
Oh
a
my
perfect
gosh.
example. People think it only happens in Philadelphia. It's like, this isn't even bad. What happened in Philadelphia this week? Oh, the media, look what's going on in San Francisco.
That was an ugly. I watched that game on my couch on my iPad, start to finish last night. That thing was
That was not. I had somebody spiking the football over because I speak highly of Matthew Stafford. He had bad first half, obviously. Everybody had a bad first half. Matthew Stafford stinks. Yeah, I'll take the 236 game sample size over the half in
right.
weather. It's like, fans are nuts, man. You don't judge a player on a half.
Yeah, right.
And ultimately settled down, played better in the second half, and they got a win. And that team's in a position to make a playoff run. Nobody thought that when they had all the offensive line injuries. Again, offensive line. And they started 1-4, whatever they started. And all of a sudden, they've won 7 of 9. Eagles are one of the 2 teams that beat them. And it's down to a 2-horse race, really, because Jonathan Gannon's Cardinals have unfortunately lost 3 in a row. They played tough, but they haven't been able to get over the top. And San Francisco is basically out of it. I think it's 0.1%. They're out of it. So, and then the second part is, where's Brock Purdy now that the weapons aren't there? Not so great. So, it really is a team game, and everybody focuses on the quarterbacks. And I saw already Hurts is better than Purdy. Well, he always probably was, but
Yeah.
They're
different type of quarterbacks. What would you do with Brock Purdy if you're San
I
Francisco?
wouldn't pay him $60 million. I'll tell you that.
Yeah, can't do
They
that.
should have kept Sam Darnold, is what they should have done.
Yeah.
But those are difficult decisions, man. But when you have somebody in your building who's more talented, you got to show the courage of your convictions, I think. I would preach that to Jody, man. I was like, I got Sam. And I'm not there every day, but
right.
they are. And Sam's doing what Sam's doing this year. And he's got a lot of talent around him. So I'm not trying to say he doesn't. And he's proven he doesn't look like what he does now with bad talent. Magically, that happens everywhere with everybody. But he's just more physically gifted. So, if he can play the way he's playing this year, and you got a somewhat limited quarterback that you got to pay $50 million to, I don't want to be in that situation. I never want to be in that situation.
Yeah. Eagles are in a much better situation now with the way Howie has structured the team, loaded up, and they're ready to get back on track this week. Johnny Mac, how much of an impact do you think, what happened this week will have on the game plan? Do you think they'll try and get that ball to A.J. Brown more? Do you think it's business as usual? Do you think the Eagles will respond to some of the talk about the passing game and try and, they have a tendency, John, to overcorrect things. At least it feels like they do in the last couple of years.
They do early in games. I don't know if they can, we always go back to that Devontae Smith game where he didn't have any catches week 1, and then the first 2 catches week 2.
Right.
Devontae's off and running. They've struggled so much early in games. I don't know if they can afford to do that. Other than, they just got to figure out how to get first downs and score some points early in games. So I don't know if they can afford to do that this time. But then, I stipulate back to it's never a bad thing to throw it to AJ. So what's the difference from that perspective? So I wouldn't be surprised if there's a little bit of overcorrection. And that's part of why AJ claims he went about it the way he went about it, to put more emphasis on, hey, we need to fix this. You know, my thought on that is, boy, if the coaches don't need to be told they need to fix that, we got a bigger problem.
Right.
Which is kind of my framework on that. But anyway, and then they'll default into what they need to do to win the game, which is basically, obviously, typically this year is defaulted to Saquon. By the way, where's our that troll guy? Saquon got asked who the best player on the Eagles were yesterday. Guess who he said?
He said AJ Brown.
Now, full disclosure, I already know he said that. So he said that many times. But yeah. So anyway.
Yeah, and what's he going to say? He's not going to say himself. Just like you told me, if you asked AJ Brown, he probably
no, that's true. But that didn't count when AJ said it on the sidelines. And by the way, the reason why he was asked the question is because there was a viral video of Saquon's talking to one of Brandon Graham's kids, and she
I saw that. The what was it? What's his daughter's name again? She did
I forget, but she asked him who the best player was.
That was a great little clip that they put up with BG's kids. That was cool.
Yeah, and he said AJ. So that was off script, so to speak, But he believes that because he says it.
Well, is it fair to say that Barkley's having the best season for the Eagles and AJ Brown is still probably your overall best player on the Eagles?
Yes. I don't know why that's so hard for people to understand.
You think, speaking of it, though, this weekend, John, you think Saquon will? I mean, it's going to be a tough defense to go up against. They don't only have TJ Watt. People think they only have TJ Watt. Cam Hayward is still playing like a beast at 35 years old. We mentioned Alex Highsmith. He's been dominating the line of scrimmage. This could be a tough team to run against this weekend, Johnny Mac. So they might need it. They might need to throw the ball a little bit.
Yeah. I don't buy it.
You don't buy it? You go taking the Eagles O-line?
Yep. Now, again, my thought process on if I'm a defensive coordinator, I'm like, I don't want 125 to turn into 175. And I certainly don't want it to turn into over 200.
Right.
So I think that's the framework. I don't think anybody's just putting the Eagles at 45 rushing yards. I just don't think that's happening. I don't think there's enough teams that play that way anymore, number one, because to do that, like, you got to put 3 linebackers on the field. You got to load the box. Nobody plays 3 linebackers. Nobody has 3 linebackers they're comfortable with. And then, as Vic will tell you, this, as soon as you do that, if you wanted to do that, they're just going to space you out and kill you in the passing game, in theory, of course. You have to have such great movement skills to be a linebacker now. So you don't have those old school Dick Butkus types who are going to smack you in the mouth and load the box. You just don't have that in the modern NFL. So I think there's a limitation for the great, and I put that great run defense teams. There's always a limitation. That's why you see. How many times have we said it? They're playing the number 1 and they go run for 150.
Exactly.
There's a limitation to run defense, and at least until things ship, and they may ship after the season. Who knows? But we'll see. But they're not there yet. So yeah, I don't worry about their running game. It's just a matter of how good it's going to be. Is it going to be just Carolina good? That's the scale, right? Carolina good to Rams good. It's not going to be Rams good against the Steelers. But they'll run the football effectively. I don't know if they'll pass it effectively, but they'll run it effectively.
Yeah, well, they should have a chance to pass it effectively this week too. John, injuries. Let's talk a little injuries just real quick on where we are with the Birds. What do we know right now about who's going to play, who's not going to play for the Eagles? I've been looking at the report. I think the Eagles are in a pretty good spot right now in terms of the attrition. I know you've lost a couple guys, but I mean,
Pretty good.
you're in week
Week
15. Yeah, you're looking.
15,
Yeah,
all 53 players practice on the active roster.
well, you got a couple guys that are on the active roster. You got a couple guys on IR. So you got
Well,
Goddard. You
yeah,
got
but how many look around the league and see how many teams have 53 play. Everybody's got a 53-man roster every week. Everybody's got guys on injury reserve. So you have that certain attrition's baked in. Dallas Goedert's on injury reserve, Brandon Graham, Bryce Huff, 3 starters. But for the 53 active players, they all practice in week 15. Sidney Brown was limited. And that's it. I mean, week 15, that's as good as it gets. So, Sidney might be ruled out. We'll see where they are with Britton, but he practiced. Britton Covey missed last week, but he practiced fully yesterday. Reed Blankenship is ready to go, coming off the concussion. They rested a lot. They rest a lot of players this time of year. They're all back. Jalen Hurts is dealing with a left finger injury. Lane Johnson was all for a personal day on Wednesday. He was back. N'Kobe's dealing with a little bit of an elbow. He practiced fully. I mean, it's as good as it gets in week 15.
Yeah, and then looking over at the Steelers, they got a couple injuries right now. Obviously, George Pickens, their star wide receiver, might miss the game. It looks like he's probably going to miss the game. He has a hamstring injury. And then 2 guys for that missed practice, Larry Ogunjobi, the defensive tackle, and then Deshaun Elliott, their cornerback, missed tackle with the groin and the hamstring, respectively. So they're a little banged up, but they're pretty healthy too. Now, those are two good guys there, in Ogunjobi and Elliott, but Pickens is really their big loss this week.
Yeah, I would say Elliott's a pretty good player.
Yeah, he is. He is.
So, he's maybe not as sexy, but he's probably a better overall player at his position than Pickens. So I would say that's a big deal. And, but offensively, because they're so limited, I think, Pickens is their one big play threat. So that limits what they can do offensively. So I think that probably has a bigger impact on the game. And, I assume they'll go a bunch of 2 tight ends because, Freiermuth is a good player. Washington's a good player. And Washington's more of a glorified receiver. Arthur Smith was joking about how many Georgia guys are in this game. And Washington's one of them on Pittsburgh's side, but he's a really big guy, man. 6'6". He could be a red zone, real red zone problem. Just throw it up to him type thing. But, anytime you're talking about, and those are really good players, Freiermuth and Washington. But anytime you're talking about an offense and you start talking about the tight ends, you're not going to be threatened. Look at last night, George Kittle. George Kittle's best tight end in football. There's only so much you can do. You need those outside threats. And right now, without Pickens, they don't really have it. And I'm not sure Russell's the guy to get him the ball at this stage of his career anyway. But I just, their offense is just not that explosive.
Good stuff there. Johnny Mac, I want to welcome everybody in this morning. Appreciate all of our great viewers here on Birds 365. I got a fun thing that I want to promote and tell everybody about in just a second. But this is a super chat, John, that warrants an immediate read. Okay, this warrants an immediate read. Chip Tooth Eagle, one of our great viewers, one of our great fans here on Birds 365. We appreciate it. He checks in with $10 super chat, and he says, missed the show yesterday because of the birth of my first child. My son was born at 8:04 a.m. just in time for Birds 365. We got a new Birds fan and a new Johnny Mac fan.
Yeah, I like it. You gotta, yes, well done. You got to indoctrinate them early.
Yeah,
yes,
I love that.
Congratulations, by the way.
Congratulations to you, Chip Tooth. You are now a father. That is awesome stuff, man. Congrats on the birth of your son. Really cool of you to drop that super chat in there too. get him listening early. Maybe he'll win one of the JAKIB giveaways coming for the JAKIB Christmas. JAKIB Christmas. What the hell is that? I'll tell you guys about that in a little bit. I'm working on a fun thing that I'm trying to get as many. Actually, let me tell people about it right now. So I don't know what the date is going to be yet because I got to finalize getting some of the items in. Okay, so I'm a little bit beholden to the delivery companies, but JAKIB Christmas means get your memberships in, everybody. I'm looking at a list of about 15 to 20 Eagles items, Johnny Mac. I got Cooper DeJean jerseys. I got Quinyon Mitchell jerseys. We got Saquon Barkley jerseys. I even got one of the Princess Diana Eagles jackets.
Oh,
we got
wow.
beanies. We got hats, sweatshirts. I'm doing it all, and we're doing a massive blowout, and we're giving it all away to JAKIB. So that's going to be a live stream, and everybody's going to be – it should be a really fun event. So I'm looking forward to doing that, hopefully around Christmas time, and giving a bunch of stuff out to the great people. I'm looking at 10-plus jerseys, Johnny Mac. 10 jerseys, 10 sweatshirts.
All right. And then, how many games we got left?
Add in the Saquon jerseys.
Yeah, add in the Saquon jerseys.
Will Saquon get it this week? You think Saquon gets it this week?
Yes. Yes, I do.
He missed it last week by a yard. A couple people were upset with me for not giving away one last week for missing it by a yard.
What it is.
And I said, hey, listen, I was going to do it, but the fact that game was so damn ugly, I added another jersey to the JAKIB Christmas giveaway, all right?
It is what it is. Yeah, the standard is the standard. If you don't hit 125, it doesn't matter if it's 1 or 124. You don't hit 125. I mean, that's the standard. Which, by the way, we set that too low. That's amazing, man. I mean, he averages like 140.
I don't think we set it too low. I think he's just been that.
Well, that's what I mean. No, we didn't set it too low. That's what I meant. We didn't set it too low from a logic standpoint. That's the kind of year he's having, which is pretty special. But then you have, like I said, then you have the unintended consequences. You don't have a passing game. There's always something. Always something in this league because it's, Nick says it's never perfect. He's right. Not a perfect game. And if you do something well, it affects something else. And that's what's going on in Philadelphia.
Dirty Air says, can I get a pair of Johnny Mac headphones? And he says game worn. He's looking for the Johnny Mac game worn. Good stuff there.
Get a new one. Yeah. I like the headphones. Covers up my bald head.
It's a good look, Johnny Mac. The iconic Johnny Mac headphone look. Carlos Morris checks in. I believe I heard Saquon said the media is more worried about the passing offense. Why wasn't he told he had a dumb take? I'm not sure what you're really saying. I don't know he did, and that is a dumb take. But I don't know what you mean. Why wasn't he told it was a dumb take? But Brandon Graham said it, dudes. We didn't make any of this up. Brandon Graham said it. AJ said what he said after the game. And by the way, I think AJ was the shortness of his comments were the problem, not the comments. I think everybody was on board. Devontae said the same thing. Jordan Mailata said the same thing. Lane Johnson said that. Jalen Hurts said the same thing. Nick Sirianni said the same thing. I think it was just the shortness of the comments that people took the wrong way after the game. But yeah, Saquon said that a couple times, and I was right in front of him. I'm rolling my eyes. I'm like, dude, because I love BG. I don't want to throw him under the bus, but he's the one who said it, not us. So you can't say this is media driven. You can. Everybody says it. So many people have said it, and I just got. We must have got 500 comments on JAKIB the other day.
I know. I'm like, really? This is media driven? I mean, he's literally got his own show. Can say whatever he wants, and he said whatever he wanted. And Brandon has apologized, and he said he made a mistake multiple times. I don't know what else he can do, but he acknowledges it, and it's still the media's fault. And AJ, one, like I said, did it purposefully, according to him, acting the way he acted. That's the media's fault. He said he did it on purpose to show a highlight to. And again, if the coaches needed that, that's a worse situation than I thought, because it should be obvious. But he said he did it purposefully. So how, other than blind love of the football team and blind loyalty of the football team and blind loyalty of the players, how anyone could say this is the media's fault is insanity. It's our own words.
Now the dust has settled on it a little bit. At least it feels like a Johnny Mac. Do you think this will be a net positive for the team, or is that too optimistic of a look? Because I do think there is a silver lining, and Andrew says it might be all end up being a positive incident. I think it's a fair point. I mean, that's kind of what AJ was saying, why he brought it up. If we can fix it while we have time, I'd rather fix it now than get into a situation last year where it was too late. Will this be a net positive for this team, in your opinion, John?
Well, it might be, but I don't think it'll be because of what happened. I think it'll be because of they finally figured it out. I mean, they've been trying to fix it this whole time.
Yeah, but this definitely put a bigger bullseye on it.
Well, it did, but I don't think that, again, from the coaching perspective, like they've been trying to fix it the whole time. So it does it to me, that from AJ was, and I even said that to him yesterday, to be blunt. I said, they didn't know? It was off the record, so I can't say what he said, but I can say what I said. And I said, they didn't know, basically, that this was an issue. I mean, they had to know it was an issue. And I've talked to Nick enough and Kellen enough. They know it's an issue. So I think it's about, I've always thought about this as about on the field, not off the field. I said that from day one. On the field, the problem is the passing game, and they need to fix it.
Right.
And the off the field stuff was about frustration about the problem on the field. That's it. And that happens all the time in the NFL. So I thought it was a little bit overblown just by the way it was framed, and because it was framed about the personal relationship between the two. And that was framed that way by Brandon, not the media. So it was framed that way. So I always thought that was sort of sensationalist white noise to the real problem. The real problem is the passing game stinks, and they got to fix it.
Pressure creates diamonds. We'll see if the pressure of the moment this weekend will be enough for the Eagles to get it back on track. Suplex City with 2 super chats. He says, John, is that Brown surgically repaired knee? I'm not sure what he's talking about there.
Sidney Brown's knee.
Okay.
It is, but it's a different injury. So it's not related to the ACL, but it is the same knee. Yeah, a little bit of concern there, but it's not ACL related.
Suplex follows up. He says, Lesnar is going to take the Philly media to Suplex City, where my step cousin Big Z wins. Suplex, if you were my step cousin, you evidently would have already won 3 or 4 jerseys by now. Suplex. But I appreciate the super chat.
The media. We all get it. We have
John, Thursday. The media, that means you, John.
Thursday, we have our meeting and we all get together and we come up with reasons to take down the Philadelphia Eagles.
Yeah, I heard this week it's actually at the JAKIB HQ on what type of headlines we can spin here on JAKIB Sports. Yeah. No, I'm just kidding. All right, let's dive back into the Steelers game, John. You know what's a number that sticks out to me when I look at this Steelers team? They are plus 17 in the turnover margin this year, John, tied for first in the NFL. And in the last 2 seasons, they're plus 28. This is a team that creates turnovers, and with an offense that might try and get that passing game more involved, potentially more susceptible to a turnover this week.
Boy, that would be the worst case scenario, that they try to pass the ball and challenge throwing interceptions all over the place. Boy, that'll be a fun week ahead if that happens. Yeah, I mean, they got a bunch of playmakers. I mean, and it starts up front, TJ Watt with strip sacks, forced fumbles, that kind of stuff. You mentioned Highsmith, what a great player he is. Hayward, I think it's number 1 last time I checked in interior defensive mind. That dude's phenomenal.
35, still playing like this is unbelievable.
So they got a really their linebackers are really athletic. Wilson's a guy I love coming out of the draft. Queen's their third 3-down linebacker. I've always thought he's a little bit overrated, but he's a good player. I just think people think he's great. I'm not there. I think Wilson's got a chance to be great if he can stay healthy. But he doesn't play full time. And Landon Roberts is a good player. They're good. Fitzpatrick is smart, savvy. Think about Adam Thielen on offense. That's sort of like Minkah Fitzpatrick, that type of player on defense. You see it with Xavier McKinney, to give your Alabama love, those type of guys who are trained well. And then Elliott being out, he's a good player. And then the corners aren't that good, but Porter can make plays, and Dante Jackson can make plays. So they're splashy players, but not probably consistent enough. So they got guys who can turn it over at all 3 levels. So when you have that, you generally do good on the turnover ratio.
Yeah.
But I would say it starts with Watt and Fitzpatrick. Watt up front,
right?
And Fitzpatrick on the back end.
Yeah. Last time the Eagles played the Steelers, A.J. Brown went off against his team, and it kind of was similar, right? He was not complaining, but he was, they were talking about the passing game that week, and A.J. was a little upset. And then, boom, 3 touchdowns later in the first half, A.J. goes off for against the Pittsburgh Steelers. We'll see if he's able to do that again this week. John, Eagles offensively here, what do you see then? How do you see them attacking this defense, with everything that's going on and with the way this defense is set up? They obviously have good players all over the place. Well, how do you see Kellen and Jalen attacking this defense?
Boy, I think you got to get the quarterback some confidence. I don't even think it's about any opposing defense at this point. I really don't. I think it's about the Eagles. They say that a lot, but I believe it. In this case, it's true. And whether that means giving them easy throws early, things like that to get them a little bit of rhythm. Maybe it's using tempo a little bit earlier. They seem to be better when they use tempo than just go in and out of the huddle. I think they just got to give the quarterback some confidence and get them into, maybe not confidence might be the wrong word, because I don't think Jalen tends to waver, but rhythm. I'll use rhythm.
Yeah.
Needs to get into a little bit of a rhythm earlier in the game. And generally you do that with a couple layups, in the layup line. If you're playing basketball, see the ball go through the hoop, give them a couple layups early and see what happens is what I would do.
What would be better, John? Okay. Jalen Hurts has 300 passing yards and 3 touchdowns in the air, but he's got a pick and the Eagles lose the game on a nail biter.
That'd be great.
Or we have another 118
for
yard
me, for my purposes,
and a victory for the Philadelphia Eagles. In your opinion, I mean in a serious way, because it would be great. Obviously, you want the win, but is there more of an emphasis on getting the passing game going because you believe it will take you further in the playoffs? What say you, Johnny Mac?
Yeah, I hear what you're saying. I think there's something to that. Like, I think, as long as the number 1 seed is in play, you got to win the game. So from that standpoint, yeah, it'd be better to throw for 118 yards, but it wouldn't be the worst thing in the world if, they got the passing game going from a longer perspective. But you can't afford to do that when you're still in the mix. Now, if that falters off and yeah, then I think that's really in play. All right. Especially you're probably going to be locked into the 2 seed no matter what. Um, then I think there's really something to that. But until it's no longer in the equation, you gotta try to win it. You gotta try to get that number 1 seed. Um, and I don't blame them for that. They have to.
Definitely will help. You see the talk around the area this week. There's a rumor going around that the Philadelphia Eagles potentially want to put a retractable roof on the link.
Yeah, that's what a lot of people.
I don't know if it's true or not, but
No, well, I don't know if they want to build a new stadium really, but I don't. Um, a lot of people thought that the minority sale that the Eagles, that Jeffrey Lurie did, was to raise money for a new stadium or whatever,
right.
put a dome on the lake, which would cost more probably than building a new stadium. So, hey, that would be way down the road. I think they have 8 more years on their lease, something in that range. But, and it's going to cost way more than $640 million to build these stadiums. I mean,
Yeah,
SoPi
that's
costs,
a drop in the bucket.
yeah, SoPi costs billions. So yeah, I mean, if people don't notice, because if people didn't notice, because a lot of people are hyper focused on the Eagles, a lot of teams sold stakes in their team. Most notably, Buffalo got some famous people, because they're allowed to now. They weren't allowed to. The NFL
Right.
changed the rules, so they're cashing out. Jeffrey Lurie paid $180 million for the Eagles, or 185, whatever it was. He just sold 8% for $640 million. Yeah,
Someone calculate that, and he still owns 96% of the or 94% of the team, or 92%, whatever the hell it is. Oh my
so
god!
he just there's inflation. Obviously, it's not quite tripling, but that for 8% of the team, yeah, he just took advantage of a new rule, as a number of teams around the league did. Miami did, Buffalo did. You'll see more coming. They're all trying to cash out with these valuations. By the way, Forbes has got a great scam going. I always laugh about valuations. Valuation is about what will somebody pay for it.
Yeah,
They
it's true.
valued the Eagles at $8.3 billion because that's what they were willing to pay. And even that was lowballed by Forbes. Yeah, but it stuns me how rich people are swindled by Forbes. Do your own valuation. Don't listen to those morons.
Yeah, there's a whole lot of politicking that goes in and
Yeah.
getting involved in the Forbes list and all that BS. But I don't know. I don't want to dome John in Philly, but people, it is becoming an enticing business move because you can get Super Bowls and college football playoffs.
Yeah, that's what it's about.
Yeah, it's all that.
They can't get a Super Bowl here, And even, I'm a wrestling guy. They had WrestleMania, which was a wild success financially for WWE. And Philadelphia did a great job. And guess what? They ain't coming back because it was so fucking cold on day one.
I know.
They don't want to come back.
Yeah.
At least for that event. So, and Minneapolis got 2 Super Bowls because they had domes both times.
Right. I don't know. I look at it 2 ways, because why the hell would you want to get rid of the advantage that Philly is right now with the cold, loud Philly stadium, and it's a hard place to play? But can you imagine how loud the Link would be with a freaking dome on there? I mean, it would easily be the loudest place in the NFL. Maybe.
Yeah, and I always say, when people with home field advantage, Green Bay is the best example of this. I always say it. In between Bart Starr and Brett Favre, they did not have a home field advantage, and it was 20 years. It was 2 decades. They were a bad football team. In and year out, they were a bad football team. They even stopped playing games in Lambeau Field. They would take 2 or 3 games a year to Milwaukee just to draw fans. So they would play part of their schedule in Milwaukee County Stadium, the old Brewers Stadium. and part of it at Lambeau Field. It did not, that home field, that legendary home field advantage did not exist because they had a bad football team. When they have a good football team, it exists. It's tremendous. Funny how that works. Detroit has a tremendous advantage in the dome, not because it's in a dome. It's very loud. That helps. They're really good.
Right.
They were, for many years, they were really bad. So there a couple years ago, I had this argument with Jody on the show. I said, Jody, you don't realize how loud that place is. But they stunk at the time. But the game was a little bit closer. Eagles still won it because it was on the road. If you're a bad team, you don't have home field advantage. If you're a good team, you have home field advantage.
That's good. It's a good way to look at it. Scott's calling you out. He says, J-Mac's starting to feel the cold on the bones. I know what he's doing here. Don't become a snowbird, J-Mac.
Hey, I lived in the Midwest for well over 10 years. So, but
when Johnny Mac hangs up the cleats, is he headed to Florida?
Oh, God, yeah. God, yeah. Yeah. Yes, 100%.
100%. We joining Rob Motti and all the other people that head down to Florida, the beautiful state.
I might do it Fierro. It depends. You got to look. I mean,
where'd Fierro go? Carolinas?
Yeah, Myrtle Beach area. Might do something like that. Echo too. It's down in that area. Yeah, but I'm definitely going south. And I do like no taxes, so Florida's.
That's a big thing. No taxes. Mike, thanks for becoming a YouTube member, man. I appreciate that. John, coaching matchup this week with the Steelers. Tomlin, Sirianni. Pretty good matchup between the two head coaches here. Who do you give the advantage to there? Obviously, Mike Tomlin's one of the better coaches in the NFL. Never had a losing season, which is pretty remarkable. What do you make of that matchup this weekend?
Well, I guess I'd have to give it to Mike Tomlin if you're going to make me choose. I mean, because he's been doing it for so long. I mean, it's about experience and, longest tenured head coach in the NFL, which is amazing. Super Bowl winner, as you mentioned, that never had a losing season, which is, I mean, just think about what goes wrong in this league. Look at San Francisco from one year to the next because of attrition. So 18 years, I think it is. Always at least at 500. 639 winning percentage over that span. That's pretty impressive. And, you hear players talk about him. They have tremendous respect for him. But, I mean, Nick has, been pretty good himself. 6th highest winning percentage of all time. So, but I the only reason I'd go Tomlin is the longevity aspect, because there are things like if Nick lasts 18 years with no losing seasons, I don't think anybody will do that again.
Extremely impressive.
Yeah. Because 1 year that, a bunch of players are going to get hurt, and you're screwed. And it's just the way it works in this league. And this guy's been able to at least field competitive teams each and every year. It's pretty impressive.
Yeah. Arthur Smith, John, is their offensive coordinator, the former Falcons head coach. They are, I want to say they're 10th or something in total, 16th in total offense. They're 23rd in passing offense. And then rushing offense, they are, where are they on the rushing offense? Freaking the Steelers on this list. They're 9th in rushing offense. So what do you make of what Arthur Smith has done? I think he's a pretty good offensive mind. He hasn't been super impressive there, but wasn't a great head coach in Atlanta. But what do you think of what he's done with Russell Wilson in that offense?
Yeah, I'm not in love with their offense.
Yeah, you mentioned that earlier.
Yeah, I don't, I just don't see the explosive play ability. And without Pickens, it really gets even further limited, as I mentioned.
Right.
So, I mean, they have to play a certain way. And, very similar to Carolina. They have to play that way, with Chuba Hubbard having, that kind of impact. 5, 6, as Vic said, 5, 6, 7 yard runs, which is really effective. Don't get me wrong, but it's also really hard, to go down the field, go 70 yards with, no explosive plays mixed in there. So that's the problem when you play that type of offense. And that's why that explosive play category is so important to the Eagles, both winning it, offensively, defensively, special teams, everybody's involved with it. That's the most important, along with turnovers. That's the most important stat for the Eagles for a reason. And they don't have a lot of explosive generating plays on offense type talent. They do on defense, but not on offense. So, but they're a good team, and Russell's taking care of the football. Very similar here. People say Jalen Hurts is taking care of the football, taking care of the football, taking care of the football. Same thing with Russell Wilson. I think he only has 3 interceptions this year. Now he hasn't played the whole season, obviously, because he was hurt at the beginning. But he's doing a good job overall of taking care of the football. And I think they're playing in that fashion. Najee Harris, very good back, but he's not explosive. Saquon's explosive. You have the biggest home run hitter on Philadelphia. Najee Harris is under 4 yards a carry, but he might carry it 30 times, and he might get you for 5 and 6 and 7 yards if they're having a good day. But he's not hitting the home run. And I think that gives you, especially with Vic's defense, that's not a good matchup, because they can sit in their zones. They don't have to do anything, they don't have to get off what they like to do. You kind of play into what he does well, Vic Fangio. So I like that matchup from the Eagles' perspective.
Yeah, and we'll see. Without George Pickens, they're a little bit limited. Callie brings up a good guy. They got that Calvin Austin. He's pretty young. I think he's 25-year-old wide receiver. He's pretty good, though, over there. We'll see what they're able to do in the passing game this week without George Pickens. It should be an interesting matchup from that perspective. I want to get to this super chat here, because, John, I want to get your take on this game. Mesmerized checks in. Call me crazy. I think the Bills beat Detroit. That game is in Detroit this weekend, Johnny Mac. Obviously has implications for the Philadelphia Eagles as we chase the number 1 seed. What do you think happens in that Bills-Detroit game?
Yeah, I mean, it's one of those things where the Bills are coming off a loss, and they played very well offensively, at least. Obviously not defensively.
Definitely not defensively.
Lost the shootouts. And you say, well, maybe they're bounce back after a loss. I don't think they're equipped to deal with Detroit, especially defensively. Now, can Josh Allen go pull a horseshoe out of nowhere? Yeah, damn right he can. But he did it last week and he lost, with 6 touchdowns. So, yeah, I don't think Buffalo's going to be the team to. And the problem is, Detroit's essentially got to lose twice, not just once. They got to lose twice. And they could. I mean, the schedule's, Buffalo's on there, Minnesota's on there. Forget the other games, but you have good teams on there. But boy, I don't see them losing twice.
We'll see. I don't know. I like Detroit in that game, man. So
here's the problem: Buffalo's an AFC foe, so even if they lose,
right, they got to lose.
The Eagles' 2 losses are against NFC teams in conference, so that's why Detroit would have to lose 2 games. And yeah, I'm with you. I don't think they're going to lose to Buffalo.
Mesmerized, appreciate your super, brother. I don't think you're far off. I think it's possible. We'll see what ends up happening in that game. One more super chat here, and then we'll get to our first commercial break. Christopher Darker checks in. Christopher, appreciate it. He says, no income taxes in Tennessee either, and no hurricanes here. Christopher, in another life, my friend, In
Well,
another
I've heard
life,
good things about Nashville from my.
Tennessee is awesome. But in another life, John, are you familiar with Hickok 45? You know who that is?
I do not.
Hickok 45. Does anybody in the chat know who Hickok 45 is? You'll either know him or you don't know him. He's got like 10 million subscribers on YouTube. In another life,
Definitely not.
I would have been Hickok 45. That would have been he lives in Tennessee. He's got this big old setup out there, and he shoots guns all day. It's a cool life. He's a big YouTuber. He's like a 65, 70-year-old man now, John. He's an awesome dude, though. In another life, Christopher Darker, I would have been Hickok 45. Maybe in my future life, I'll be Hickok 45. Who knows?
I'm going to throw, Teron Davenport lives down there now covering the Titans. So, yeah, I've heard some good things. You got to get the right area. I don't know. I'll throw them in the mix. I'm going south, so I'll throw them in the mix. But I'm leaning heavily towards Florida.
Yeah, I don't blame you. I don't blame you on that one. Going to Florida. Where would you go in Florida? Southwest, southeast,
Southwest.
Yeah, Southwest is the move.
Yeah.
Southwest is the move. I spent a lot of time down there in Naples. My girlfriend's parents have a place down there. We have a small little condo in Naples, which is super fun to go to. It's just a beautiful place down there. Appreciate everybody for being here this morning. Hit that like button on the show. Abe, good to see you back in the chat, man. I know you were dealing with some stuff personally. Good to see you, brother. Hope everything is well on your front. Hit that like button, everybody, like I said. And we'll be back. In hour number 2, we're going to talk to Kaden Steel from NJ.com. So we're going to dive deep into this Pittsburgh Steelers-Eagles game with Kaden. We'll see what he thinks of what went on in Eagle Land this week and how that might affect the game plan this weekend, because I'm done talking about the drama, but I do think it's worth talking about how it might impact the Birds moving forward, whether they'll change up their philosophy moving forward. John, I've been thinking about your take, by the way, of it's actually AJ and Jalen on the same side versus everybody else, or not everybody else, but they believe the same thing, and they're kind of going against what the coaches are asking them to do, or want to go against what the coaches are asking.
Well, they're not going against it, but they're pointing out, they're trying to point out that, hey, it's probably better if we, get the passing game. Yeah, I don't like Jalen's term submitted. I don't think that's a positive term. Submitted to what's going on in the offense. So that's where I got that. He's usually very intentional with his wording, and to say you've submitted to something is not a positive.
Especially when you're a star quarterback submitting to anything. They should be submitting to you. No, John?
Yeah, he was asked that question, basically, and he kind of doubled down. He had no problem with the question, and he basically said, I get why you're asking the question, but I've submitted to the path to winning. Part of it is you got to prove you can do it, so people are confident. The bottom line is the worst part of this, and again, we're talking about 11-2 teams, so this is all in hopefully context, because it's a very good football team. But the worst part of what's happened to this offense is that they scaled it back purposefully because they thought it wasn't working. And why did they think it wasn't working? Well, it's not the offensive line. It's not the running back. It's not the wide receivers. So I'll leave that open-ended.
Interesting. Interesting stuff there, and we'll see what ends up happening. Abe checks in. Jerry Jones investing into the drama is my conspiracy. I don't know about that, Abe. I'm not sure, though. Jerry Jones does love, but he likes to be in the news, Abe. He likes dominated the news. Jerry's like, how can I get back?
By the way, speaking of the Cowboys, we get way too much Cowboys on national TV. Did you see those Monday night ratings for a nothing Cowboys team?
I did not.
What, best in 18 years or something
for Monday Night Football?
Yeah.
Oh my
Dallas and Cincinnati.
It's crazy.
And this is why they keep throwing that bullshit team on national television, and people keep watching. You got to stop watching, people.
They ain't gonna stop watching the Cowboys. I told you they're the They are the fun team to watch if you're a casual football fan. Clary Wojcikson, he says, Destin is the nicest place, Gulf side in Florida, John. I brought this comment up for one specific reason. I got a great quick story. So in college, one year we were, asleep at the wheel on spring break, and we decided to go to Destin. All right. And me and all my boys are in this place. Every single one of them walks out to the beach, right? And I was held up for some reason. I didn't. I was the only person who didn't go out to the beach yet. I was 5 minutes behind them. As soon as I look out the balcony and they're out on the beach, I see them all getting arrested for drinking on the water. And I'm up in the condo and I'm like, boy, I escaped the bullet here. So I had to go and bail all of my college boys out.
That's not
Destin, from the
that
Destin
could be a bigger problem than being in jail. The guy that's got to bail him out.
Yeah, it was not a good day for me either. But hey, I would have rather been in my position than their position because they had to deal with all that and the community service and all the things that they had to do. But it's a funny memory of Destin. So I appreciate you bringing that up there, brother. All right, we're going to get to our commercial break. I know I've been teasing it, haven't gotten to it. People say I'm the king of that, saying we're getting to a break and then just elongating. And I know I do that all the time, but we're going to do it now. We'll be right back on Birds 365. Let me tell you guys about the great people at BetUS. Go to betus.com.pa and use this promo code YouTube150. You get 150% sign-up bonus on your very first deposit, and you get 125% on your second and third deposit up to $2,000. So go to betus.com.pa. That's betus.com.pa. They have the fastest payouts in the industry, 24/7 customer support, and they'll even give you your own custom account manager. So big thanks to them for sponsoring the 2-hour show today. We'll be back in 3 minutes on Birds 365.
Ignite your nights with free live entertainment daily, only at Live Casino and Hotel Philadelphia's Center Bar. 7 days a week, enjoy some of the region's top party bands, performers, and DJs as they take the stage in the heart of the casino action. Great cocktails, live music, and lively moments. It's all happening at Center Bar at Live Casino and Hotel Philadelphia. Visit livecasinophilly.com for more details and the complete list of upcoming events. Must be 21 or older. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER.
The following is a real testimonial from the father of a young injured victim.
I didn't think she was going to make it.
Major Perry's daughter was the victim of a horrific accident caused by someone else's negligence.
If you don't find the right counselor, law firm that you're looking for, you will get lost in the wilderness.
Badly injured? Call the Fritz and Bianculli Law Firm at 215-458-2222 and find out why they say, "We got this."
In our hometown, we all look out for each other. We step up to keep our communities going strong. And at Independence Blue Cross, we're here to keep you going strong as the #1 health insurer in the region. No IBX is always looking out for you.
We noticed that there was mold creeping into our basement about a year and a half ago, and wanted to make sure that we were getting rid of the problem permanently. We actually reached out to several different contractors to get it resolved, and actually 2 of them recommended DryTech to us as a long-term solution. Other than the noise factor, we wouldn't even know that there was work being done on the basement level. It's really been a clean process for us.
Score and save this football season on your car insurance. Before the next game, save up to 40% on your auto insurance policy. That's right, 40% savings. Call an audible this season and contact the Del Val Insurance Group. They're an advocate for you, not an insurance company. That means they'll get you the right coverage and save you up to 40%. Call managing partners Fran or Jim of Del Val Insurance, 215-354-0122, or score and save at dvigi.com. dvigi.com.
EAGLES, Eagles.
Welcome back in, everybody, to a Football Friday here on Birds 365 across JAKIB Sports. Week 15 in the NFL kicked off last night in a very ugly game between the Rams and the 49ers. The Niners have players walking out on them in the middle of games. Johnny Mack had paled in comparison to what happened in Eagle Land. We're a little upset after 9 straight wins that we're not passing the ball better. The Niners have guys leaving the team in the middle of games, a little Antonio Brown-esque. So Week 15 kicked off last night. And the Birds 11-2 taking on the Steelers at 10-3. John, I have a question to ask you about this game. All right, and what's one matchup? And this is courtesy of Bleeding Green Nation, by the way. They asked this question on their side. I thought it was a really good question, so I wanted to pose it to you. What's one matchup you like in the Steelers' favor in this game, and what's one matchup you like in the Eagles' favor in this game? You can start with the Steelers' favor.
Boy, typically you go to TJ Watt, but you can't do that in this particular game. That's a good question. What I don't like the Steelers. I don't think this is a good, and I don't mean I don't like the Steelers. I don't think this is a good matchup. Styles make fights type of thing. I don't think this is a good matchup for the Steelers. If I would have to say something, I would say those tight ends I talked about earlier, in the passing game against the Eagles. I like that matchup, Freiermuth and Washington for them. For the Eagles, I'll also go defensively in the opposite direction. I just don't see Russell Wilson being able to get the ball outside the numbers against this defense. So I'd go in that direction. But I like overall, I like the matchup for the Eagles. I think this is a perfect style team for them.
I'm gonna go Steelers pass rush is the advantage, and it's not about the offensive line for me, because as good as the offensive line is, you can only hold for so long. Jalen Hurts has been holding on to the ball a long time right now. In the last 3 games, he's been in a bit of a rut, especially in the passing game, under 200 yards for 3 straight games now. And that pass rush is a lot better than Carolina's. And Carolina had, 4 sacks for 25 yards last week? So I'm going to give the slight edge there to the Steelers in this game, mainly because the quarterback's been holding on to the football, not as much about the matchups on the offensive line. And then go to the other side for the Eagles. The Eagles, I think, have a couple big advantages here, and Saquon Barkley's obviously one of them. But is Jalen Carter the biggest one? He's going up against the backup left guard and a rookie center. By the way, the rookie center has been really good. Yeah. But that doesn't mean he's going to be able to stop Jalen Carter.
Yeah, well, I always like Jalen Carter, but for me, Jalen Carter's got it. The next step for Jalen Carter is that consistency from play to play. He's always going to have the splash plays, just because of how gifted he is. So it's an advantage, I would say, but I don't know if it's the super advantage that sometimes that people think it is, because of the splashiness of it. And I think, I think you mentioned how good Frazier's been. I think, I think, he'll get them more than they'll get him, So I don't know if the full blown advantage is there. And Isaac's a really good player. Obviously, we know that. And then they have some problems at the other spot, but yeah, I wouldn't go there first, but he'll always have the splash plays, no question about that.
I think he could be. I mean, listen, I know Frazier's been playing good, but I think there is an advantage there, and I think that's going to be one of the keys. If you get Russell Wilson off his spot with pressure up the middle, his life's going to be a lot harder, especially without his top wideout. I mean, you're going to, Pat Freiermuth is obviously going to be a big part of this game. Penn State, I think he's a Penn State guy, Pat Freiermuth. I think
they're limited offensively.
That's what I mean. So if you make life harder for Russell Wilson, especially with interior pressure, I think it becomes that much easier.
Yeah, I mean, I think it has more to do with the limitations on. That's why, you asked me to pick. I'm like, I'm not going to go to Jalen Carter, but again, he's part of the equation. He's the best player on defense, most talented player on defense.
Yeah.
He's part of the equation. But I'm just not going there first because Pittsburgh's, pretty good with just because he's a rookie. It's like Vic says, and you see it with Cooper and Quinyon here. Just because he's a rookie, don't underestimate him. He's been one of the best centers in football, and sometimes that happens. Rookies hit the ground running. You've seen it with 2 here. So I wouldn't assume it's a weakness because he's a rookie. He's playing very well. And one thing I know about talking to Stoutland about Seumalo, very, very smart. Very smart. That's probably one of the reasons, to be honest, that Frazier's playing so well. Because Isaac, he would always describe it, Stoutland would describe it as basically having 2 centers with Kelsey and Seumalo. So he knows all the pass protection. He knows what to do. He knows where to slide. He knows, and even if Frazier needs some help there, he can give him that help. So that factors into it as well. So it wouldn't be, again, Jalen's always going to make plays, but it wouldn't be my first place I would go in this one. I don't like these receivers against that secondary because of, and a lot of it has to do with Vic. They're going to zone this team up and,
I know.
Force them to do some things because they can't pop the top.
We'll see what happens there. Alex Highsmith, John, here's some stats on him. He's the other edge rusher. So TJ Watt obviously gets most of the attention when you go up against Pittsburgh and you play their defensive line and play that defense. He's obviously an absolute beast, maybe the best player in the NFL, second best player in the NFL. I think I got Myles Garrett as the best. Is Myles Garrett the best football player in the world?
He's in the very short list of people for that title.
I'd like to hear what your list is for that title, John.
I'd have to think about it, but he's always won.
All right, you think about that. You let me know whenever you get that list, whether it's today or another day. But he's on my short list for sure, and I guess you could probably put TJ Watt on that list as well. Who's another?
Yeah, he's on the list. Obviously, quarterbacks are always going to be overinflated. Like I always say, when I say AJ Brown's the best player on the Eagles, what I mean, it depends on people's definition, is who does their job the best. Like he's a better receiver than insert name is better at their job. He's the best at his job in Philadelphia. That's how I describe it. So when I rate it, obviously, if you're talking about impact, it's always going to be quarterbacks. Who's the best at their job? Myles Garrett is on, a very short list to be the best player in the world. Trent Williams has been on that list, but he's getting older. He's hurt right now. It's one of the best left tackles that ever lived.
Did you see the broadcast last night? Showed a guy that was not Trent Williams, and put.
Did they?
And put
called
the
him
thing on the
Trent,
screen that was Trent Williams. It's
Really?
just a black dude with a big beard, and I'm like, did they just pick any black dude with a big beard and call him Trent Williams? I don't know how the fuck they messed that up.
Really funny. I did not see that, but
oh my god, I was rolling. I'm like, I got to get on Twitter and see if people are talking.
That's a bad. That's a bad job. That's a bad job.
It was a bad job. It was a bad job. Anyway, I wanted to talk about Alex Highsmith though, because if you look at this, he's pressure rate right now. He's 7 of 115 in the NFL, and his pass rush win rate, he's 4th out of 115 in the NFL of pass rushers graded. So he's playing really good. He's the other side, and he's kind of fly. I don't want to say he flies under the radar, but he doesn't get the hype or the attention because of TJ Watt and Cam Hayward. I think this guy he could be a tough matchup for Jordan Mailata. Now I'm going to give the edge to Jordan Mailata, but Mulata ranks 13th in the NFL right now in pressures allowed among offensive tackles. Maybe Al Highsmith that, gives him a little bit of a fit today. Or not today. Sunday.
Jordan Mailata's having a freaking. You're talking about a guy who's having a freaking unbelievable year.
He's
like he would be in the conversation if he'd done it a little bit longer. At this level, George Mailata's been unbelievable this year. Like you can make a strong argument that he's the Eagles' best player this year. And he missed the 4 games, so that factors into it as well. Yeah, I don't worry about Jordan. I worry about Alex Highsmith in that instance. That's what I'm saying with their offensive line, man. It's like
I know, but
TJ's a little bit different. TJ's a little bit different because TJ's.
I know, but Hurts did take 4 sacks versus the Panthers. Like, are we sure
that's a Hurts thing?
That's what I'm saying, though. I'm not saying that the offensive line.
That's not the offensive line's going to do their job. And I'm not saying they're perfect, but I mean, Jordan Mailata has been. I can't even give enough. There's not enough adjectives that describe the way he's playing. I don't know where he is. I got to look where PFF has him. I know he's number 1. At one point, he was number 1 overall in the entire NFL. I don't know if he still is. Yeah, he's number 1 at tackle still. And I think about the tackles in this league. Penei Sewell, Lane Johnson, Trent Williams. All the way down, Rashawn Slater's having a big year. Wirfs is awesome. You got the Minnesota tackles. They're awesome. So many great tackles in this league. And Jordan Mailata has been better than any of them. So I don't worry about Jordan Mailata against Alex Highsmith.
I hear you. Interior-wise, Cam Hayward, 35. We talked about him a little bit. His pressure rate, 2nd out of 120 in the NFL, and pass.
Cameron Hayward,
4th out of 120. This dude is an absolute B. I think I got a super chat on him, so let me pull that up while we talk about him. Abe checks in. Our biggest issue may be Cam Hayward because
I agree. I agree because Cam Jurgens is a very good player, but he's not top of the line like everybody else is.
Well, it's his first year start. Well, first year as a center, but
he's not quite at the level of everybody else on that line. And Cameron Hayward is big time. I mean, despite the age, he just keeps going. A lot of Calais Campbell in him. Calais is that way. No matter how long he plays, he's an impactful player. Yeah, that could be a problem. I would say if you're looking at the Steelers, and I believe the Steelers, I've said it all week, I believe they have the best defensive front in the NFL and line and linebackers. I just have that much respect for the Eagles' offensive line. But if they're going to have a problem, I mean, TJ's always a problem. I'm not trying to. He's a Myles Garrett type. He's a Micah Parsons. He's always a problem. I mean, you're gonna lose some reps to TJ Watt.
Yeah,
I don't care who you are. Superman's gonna lose some reps to TJ Watt. So he's always a problem. And then Cam Hayward matchup wise could be a problem. I don't think Highsmith is a matchup problem at all. At all. I think he's in for a long day.
All right, I like that. All right, let me read a couple of supers and then we'll get to Kaden Steel ASAP. Caden's in the groom room. Looking forward to talking to Kaden coming up here on Birds 365. A couple super chats. And Sean says, no clean face Sills to hate on Hurts. It's a great day already. 2-6 today, and Sean. Brian Pumper says, Zander, if the quarterback exceeds the unthinkable 150 yards passing, I want a Jalen Alexander Hurts jersey giveaway. I need a new doormat. Come on, Pump. I'll be giving away one for the JAKIB Christmas, the massive giveaway. I got some Hurts jerseys.
I like the unthinkable. Unthinkable 150 yards.
Oh,
unthinkable. Man.
What are we, 3 straight games under that? No, we had, I think we were above that.
That's harsh. Unthinkable.
Brian
said,
it's
been bad. It has been bad.
It's got to be better. I think it will be this week. Brian says, this fan base is wild, calling him Old Man Russ We have Old Man Hurts. MFer is the oldest and slowest 26-year-old. Russ high knees is greater than the 600-pound squat.
Until he's got to go for 35 up to me. He may look like he's moving slowly, but he ain't moving slowly, Jalen Hurts. When he gouges you for 35, yeah. Yeah, he's an old soul, but he's still 26, whatever he is.
Yeah, 26.
Yeah, he's fine athletically. He's got more in the tank than Russ athletically.
And Sean says, our defense contained Lamar. Russ and his old bones will get the same treatment. He's not fast enough to run from Carter. He only threw for 158 on the shitty Browns. Man, the stats today.
Everybody takes one game to make their point. Well, guess what? Everybody has shitty games. Everybody.
As evidenced by last night's kickoff to Week 15.
From Tom Brady on down. Tom Brady had shitty games, believe it or not. Everybody has shitty games. So don't pop out your chest by pointing to somebody's worst game.
We'll see how the Eagles can turn it around, get that passing game going this week against the Steelers. I think it's a good matchup. I think it's going to be a physical, good matchup. Good stuff there. We'll get to our commercial break now, and then we'll get to Kaden Steel coming up next here on Birds 365. Before I get there, let me tell you about the great people at BetUS. Go to betus.com.pa. That's betus.com.pa. Use the promo code YouTube150. It gives you a 150% sign-up bonus on your very first deposit, and you get 125% on your second and third deposit, all up to $2,000. So deposit less and bet with more at BetUS. They have the fastest payouts in the industry, 24/7 customer support, and they'll even give you your own custom account manager. So go check out BetUS, and we appreciate them for sponsoring the 2-hour show today. We'll be back in 3 minutes with Kaden Steel of NJ.com.
Ignite your nights with free live entertainment daily, only at Live Casino and Hotel Philadelphia's Center Bar. 7 days a week, enjoy some of the region's top party bands, performers, and DJs as they take the stage in the heart of the casino action. Great cocktails, live music, and lively moments. It's all happening at Center Bar at Live Casino and Hotel Philadelphia. Visit livecasinophilly.com for more details and the complete list of upcoming events. Must be 21 or older. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER.
The following is a real testimonial from the father of a young injured victim.
I didn't think she was going to make it.
Major Perry's daughter was the victim of a horrific accident caused by someone else's negligence.
If you don't find the right counselor, law firm that you're looking for, you will get lost in the wilderness.
Badly injured? Call the Fritz and Bianculli Law Firm at 215-458-2222 and find out why they say, "We got this."
In our hometown, we all look out for each other. We step up to keep our communities going strong. And at Independence Blue Cross, we're here to keep you going strong as the #1 health insurer in the region. No IBX is always looking out for you.
We noticed that there was mold creeping into our basement about a year and a half ago, and wanted to make sure that we were getting rid of the problem permanently. We actually reached out to several different contractors to get it resolved, and actually 2 of them recommended DryTech to us as a long-term solution. Other than the noise factor, we wouldn't even know that there was work being done on the basement level. It's really been a clean process for us.
Score and save this football season on your car insurance. Before the next game, save up to 40% on your auto insurance policy. That's right, 40% savings. Call an audible this season and contact the Del Val Insurance Group. They're an advocate for you, not an insurance company. That means they'll get you the right coverage and save you up to 40%. Call managing partners Fran or Jim of Del Val Insurance, 215-354-0122, or score and save at dvigi.com. dvigi.com.
EAGLES, Eagles.
Back in, everybody, to a Football Friday here on Birds 365, Week 15 in the NFL. Birds taking on the Pittsburgh Steelers. Joined now by Kaden Steel of NJ.com. Kaden, welcome to the show, man. How you doing on this Friday morning? You're muted up, Kate. You're muted, Kaden. You're good.
Muted.
That was a rookie mistake. It's too late in the season to be making mistakes like that.
Yeah, it's week 15. Week 15, Caden. Week 15, way too late to create a rookie mistake. But is it too late to solve a passing game that's been non-existent? Or does it even matter for the Philadelphia Eagles?
It matters. I'm not sure. I don't know. I mean, I don't think it's as bad as people have made it out to be. I think there's been weeks where it's been efficient. Like, in my mind, I don't think it's something where the Eagles have to, like, go back to being a pass-first team and throw it around 30 times. I think they just have to be more efficient. I mean, Jalen Hurts has to be more efficient. I think they still could be a run-heavy team. It's just, in the Panthers game specifically, it's just the throws that he missed, that he didn't see. The one to A.J. Brown where he dumps it off the dots, and the one on the third down where A.J. Brown's open and he overthrows Johnny Wilson. I think it's the little things like that where I don't think all of a sudden I'm not worried about like the numbers. Like I think being 31st, would you like to be a little higher? I think, yeah, but like I don't think they need to all of a sudden, light the world on fire. I just think they need to take what's there and be more efficient on those big plays, especially to A.J. Brown. Yeah, I think it's fixable. I mean, I still believe in the quarterback. I think the quarterback has ability. I believe in the weapons. They're going to get Dallas Goedert back at some point, which will make things easier. So I think it's fixable, but right now it doesn't look great.
Kaden, was the whole thing overblown in your opinion? Or, I mean, listen, this team's 11-2. They won 9 straight football games, but the reality is they're a very low-graded passing offense. Many say it doesn't matter. You're winning the way you're winning. You're 9 straight. Why not just keep doing what we're doing? Is the whole thing overblown, or you think there's a real, worry here that you're not going to win in the playoffs if you don't get it going?
No, I don't think it's overblown because I think a lot of people, you look at the beginning games, you're asking why this team started slow. I mean, they're inefficient in the passing game, especially early in the first quarter. They have a lot of penalties. And if you're playing a team like Detroit, and the run game is great, but we've seen Saquon throughout the year. Most of his big plays come in the second, third, and fourth quarter. If it's in the NFC Championship and you're playing the Lions and you get down 14-0 or 17-0 because that offense is well schemed, because they have a lot of weapons, and they get out early on you and you can't pass the ball consistently, it could be troublesome. I think right now, is it a problem with who you're playing in the regular season? No, you match up well against the Steelers. You match up well against the Commanders. You probably get in the playoffs in the first couple of rounds. You'll probably be fine. But if you play a team like the Lions that can get up on you, and even look at the Vikings with the weapons they have on offense, I mean, it's something that I think you have to fix. I'm less worried about like specific offense, passing offense and running offense. It's more about just the slow starts. But I mean, a lot of these slow starts are caused by the passing game inefficiency. So I don't think it's overblown because, I mean, I'm not sure if this team can play from behind like they used to. Like 2022, I feel like they could play from behind with the way that offense was humming. But this year, they're built with running the ball and wearing you out on defense and the offensive line. So stylistically, if they get in a matchup with a team that can spread it, I'm not sure how great they'll match up. Like I said, I still believe in Jalen Hurts, but we saw it in the Bengals game. I thought a game like that was a perfect example. He didn't throw for 300 yards, but he was efficient. He made big plays with his arm, made some big plays with his legs in the game. I think a game like that is what you want to see. Maybe around like 230 yards, 215 yards, efficient, a couple touchdowns. I think that would make people feel a lot better. And I think he's capable of that, but he's been up and down this year overall. And the whole passing game, it's not just him. So,
yeah. And I want to bring up the other problem with this team that we don't talk about as much because of this week and how things have unfolded and all the controversy off the field, self-inflicted in a lot of ways from the Eagles' perspective. But boy, I'm worried about Jake Elliott too. But I'm not worried because of the reason other people are worried. Kaden, I mean, he's missing kicks. That's bad. I'm not saying it's good, but it's now affected the way the Eagles play because that was very un-Nick Sirianni-like at the end of the Carolina game to go into 1975 mode. Let's kick it down. Let's punt it. Let's take the delay game. There's three things you could have done there, and only one guaranteed the Carolina Panthers an opportunity to win the game, and it's the one the Eagles chose. That's not their DNA. And they have lost confidence in the kicker. Is that a problem for you?
Yeah, it's a problem. And look, it's this point in the season, Jake Elliott's been struggling all year. I don't know if earlier some people are like, maybe he went for it in fourth down against Atlanta because he didn't trust Jake. I don't know about that. That might just hit him being aggressive. But the Washington game, in the combination with the Panthers game where he misses from 50 again, and if it wasn't for the penalty, he would have missed a PAT. You missed a PAT in the Washington game. Like he has been not good this year. I mean, from in 50, he's been fine for the most part, other than a few botches on some PATs. But Jake Elliott hasn't figured it out, and it is a concern because kickers can cost you games. I mean, look at the Packers in the playoffs last year against the 49ers.
Yeah.
There's so many examples throughout the years, and the Eagles can't really do anything about it. I mean, they owe Jake Elliott a lot of money. They're not going to just get rid of Jake Elliott. Trust that. Plus, I do believe they have, loyalty and faith, and they want to believe that Jake Elliott will figure this thing out. But he hasn't this year so far. Just from 50, Jake Elliott used to be automatic from 50 yards, but not anymore. And yeah, when it gets in the games, John, they're going to have some tough decisions to make. If you're in a playoff game and you need 3 points to win, are you going to trust Jake Elliott from 51 yards? Maybe you feel better if it's in a dome. I know Sirianni was talking about the win element of it. I don't know. I buy that a little bit, but I
didn't buy it even a little bit.
Yeah, but I buy more they don't have faith in the kicker. He wants to say for sure, just to make sure Jake's confidence isn't gone. Yeah. But they don't have faith in the kicker, and from that perspective, that's a problem because that impacts your decision making.
Right.
It impacts how you can win a game. So,
yeah, they might not be trying to destroy Jake's confidence, but Jake knows exactly what they did at the end of that game, whether he wants to admit it or not. Kaden, I want to get into this Eagles-Steelers game this weekend. 11-2 Eagles, 10-3 Pittsburgh Steelers. A great battle of Pennsylvania this week. When I look at a key matchup here, I look at that Pittsburgh defensive line, right? They got Cam Hayward, they got TJ Watt, they have Alex Highsmith, Herbig, a lot of good guys on that offensive line or in that defensive line. I know the Eagles' offensive line is probably best in the league, but Jalen Hurts, his highest in his career in sack percentage this year, 35 sacks taken already, and he had 4 last week versus the Panthers. How much could that Pittsburgh pass rush impact this game this weekend?
Yeah, it could a lot if he holds the ball the way he did last week. I think the offensive line will do well. I mean, there's going to be moments. I mean, TJ Watt and Alex Highsmith, all those guys are good players, so they're going to occasionally beat Mailata and Lane Johnson. But, I mean, Lane Johnson and Mailata have been playing at an all-pro level. So I feel like for the most part, they can create a clean pocket for Jalen Hurts. But if he's holding the ball extra, I mean, it could be a problem because if you give TJ Watt 3 or 4 seconds to get to the quarterback, you probably will. And the thing about TJ Watt that he's so good at is it's not just the sacks, but the forced fumbles and the splash plays that he can cause, stuff like that. And from a game where I think stylistically this is going to be a physical, low-scoring, run the ball. It's going to be a tight game. If TJ Watt can get a strip sack or anything that can change the game, I mean, that could change the outcome into Pittsburgh's way. So, I mean, it could have a big impact. And Jalen does have to do a better job of getting rid of the ball. I mean, you saw the stat last week. I forget the exact number, but I mean, it was super high. I mean, not a number that you want to see. And the interior, I mean, Pittsburgh's got guys like Cam Hayward and I think Jurgens and Dickerson and Bector are good players. But I mean, if you give him 4 seconds, I mean, he's going to get to the quarterback. So I don't think this will be an offensive line problem. But if Hurts does hold on to the ball, it could cause some issues, and I'd be worried about turnovers and stuff like that. But he just got to get it out faster, and we'll see what happens.
Yeah, I'm with you. I don't think it's an offensive line issue at all. I think it's the quarterback holding on to the football. And you bring up a good point with a guy like TJ Watt. When does that stuff happen? That stuff tends to happen, those forced fumbles, those strip sacks. That tends to happen when the quarterback's holding on to the ball a little bit too long. So that's my concern with that perspective. But I think the Steelers' front seven, really extending to the linebackers, is the best in the NFL overall. And you mentioned Cam Hayward. He's having a tremendous season. But, boy, I got to tell you, Kaden, I was saying, Zander was asking me about matchups. I don't worry about – I don't care with the Eagles' offensive line. Like, I know they're going to do their job. And that goes back to the offense. I know they're going to do their job. I know Saquon's going to do his job at this point. I know the receivers are good. What does that leave?
It does, and I think we talked about it yesterday. This is not like a total slight against Jalen Hurts, because I think he does do things well.
He does tremendous. I bring it up all the time. He's got, even in Carolina, 83 net passing yards. He's got a 35-yard run to break their back. He's got a 15-yard run. He's got the off-schedule 27-yard pass to Devontae Smith. There's always 3 or 4 back-breaking plays for the defense. So he deserves credit for that. But, boy, it's tough to count on off-schedule stuff all the time.
Yeah. I mean, and it's fair to say, and it might be tough to hear for people, but he has to play better. He just has to play better. I think there are moments where he does some really good stuff, but for this offense to get into a rhythm. And then at the same time, he talked about it. I mean, I think Jalen Hurts, we talked about the off schedule stuff, and he does do some of that well. I also think he does play within structure pretty decent at times. I don't know what the solution is necessarily, but Kellen Moore, he talked about Jalen Hurts getting into a rhythm at his press conference. He seems like a quarterback when he's in rhythm and he's on page and stuff's getting out of his hands fast. And I feel like that's when he's operating best. For some reason he wasn't reading the field too well against Carolina, but I think Kellen Moore and the offensive staff has to find a way to get Jalen comfortable more early. I think the thing we see from Jalen is that he settles down as the game goes on, like the third and fourth quarter. That's when he's making plays that are really important. I mean, he finds ways, and he talks about it in his press conference, and maybe it comes off, sometimes he says it all the time, but he wants to will the team to wins and stuff. I mean, he does. He makes plays to will this team to wins, especially in tight games with some of the big runs he makes and some of the big throws. But it's just those first and second quarters where I just feel like he's not as comfortable. And what can they do to get him to that point where it doesn't take until 3 minutes left in the second half where he feels comfortable? I think that's the important thing for Jalen Hurts.
Kaden, it's hard to call a coordinator a failure or underperforming when you're 11-2. But I don't think Kellen Moore was brought here to be good at handing the ball off to Saquon Barkley, as awesome as Saquon's been. The Eagles' passing numbers are not only down in terms of yards per game and attempts per game, but they're graded way down on Pro Football Focus in terms of the passing game. And Jalen Hurts' passing grade on there is way down since below his first year starting. How do you evaluate Kellen Moore and what he's been for this team? Is it fair to say it's been underwhelming and not what we expected?
Yeah, I don't know. It's tough because I do think one of the reasons he was brought in was to fix the passing offense that struggled last year under Brian Johnson. And I do think like I said, the numbers aren't as bad as they indicate, because I think they've been efficient at times, but it's not been as explosive. And I don't think Jalen Hurts, even though there's been some moments, is not the player that I guess maybe they were trying to get him back to. I guess the idea is you bring Kellen Moore and you hope he can get back to closer to the 2022 version. I think we've learned this year that that's just not the high. I just don't think that's who Jalen Hurts is. I think he's a good quarterback. He's a fine quarterback. I don't think he is to that level. And I think the hope was that Kellen Moore could maybe get more out of him. I think he's been fine, but not great. So from that perspective, it might be disappointing. I also think Kellen Moore has, with Jeff Stoutland and with, the other guys in the building, has helps, some of the scheme within the run game. And I know, the report out there and the players talked about as well as they want the Nick to change the run game, but Kellen also had to embrace that as well. So from that perspective, I feel like you have to give him some credit, but yeah, I mean, I don't think he's done anything to like revolutionize this offense that people thought. But the run game's been good. I don't want to take that away from Kellen because maybe he has some part of that with Jeff Stoutland and helping, make that game plan, but yeah, I don't know. I think he's been fine. I don't think Kellen Moore has been a name that I've seen people mention as a head coaching candidate. I don't see that, but I think he's been fine.
Well, I think it'd be measured against last season, in the crap that Brian Johnson took. Maybe the only difference is, well, Saquon's obviously you could always run the ball, but you can run it better with Saquon. So that's the obvious difference on the offense. But from a larger perspective of the team, the bigger difference is actually Vic Fangio is saving everybody's bacon and turning this, because you can imagine this offense with the 31st ranked defense,
right,
like it was last year.
Wouldn't be good.
The narrative would be a lot different.
Yeah, they're only giving up 18 points a game, John. So they don't even have to score that much.
Yeah. The narrative would be incredibly different. And I think Kellen Moore would be taking a whole boatload on, if you know what I mean. He'd be getting killed. In a lot of ways, we talk about Saquon, MVP. Nick Sirianni's bending over backwards to say Jalen Hurts should be in the MVP conversation a couple of weeks ago, which is, come on, ludicrous. But is the MVP of this team Vic Fangio?
Yeah, it's either him or Saquon. But I think you make a good point. I mean, Saquon has been great, and I think you still have a lot of yards, but this defense couldn't stop anyone. And if the passing offense is not able to, win in shootouts and stuff like that, like they haven't been able to show this year. And part of that is because they haven't had to, but they haven't shown it. Yeah, it changes everything. This team might be, I don't know, an 8-win team, maybe or a 7-win team if Vic Fangio is not here. The defense has been spectacular, and it's just they're so fundamentally sound. I mean, who would have thought that coming into this year that Zach Bond would be playing at an all-pro level? You look at the numbers.
Unbelievable.
Yeah. Because Zach Bond's not the biggest, I think he's a bigger name now, but because he's not, and frankly, because he's not an edge rusher, an edge rusher typically wins DPOI, or sometimes it's rare a corner. Linebackers really win the award, and he's not a big name, so I don't know if he's gonna win it, but he has the numbers.
He should be in the conversation. Yes. I agree. He's not gonna. TJ's gonna win it. TJ's gonna win it, but he should be in the conversation. He should be top 5 in that voting.
Yeah, and with the way the rookie corners are playing and getting most out of the defensive line, even like it's not like the biggest jump in the world. It hasn't been like the most flashy thing, but like even like the progression of like Nolan Smith and like other guys in this defense this year, and they're just the way they're playing as a unit and they're shutting down teams. That Ravens game was so impressive. I know last week they didn't play as great. I chalked that up as to Bryce Young is on a string of games where he's actually playing really well, and Adam Thielen took Cooper DeJean to school because he's a technician, and when you're going against a technician, if you slip up just a little bit, he's going to get you. But against that Ravens offense, they shut them down. And in that game, I think that was a statement game for Vic. They've had other good games this year. Look after the Rams game. They get a drive, and Vic figures them out, and look at all the weapons they have and what they did to Buffalo the previous week. So I think he's been the MVP. And if Vic was here last year, I mean, that's the fun part in my head. If they were able to get Vic instead of Sean Desai,
they would have been. Yeah, they might have been in the Super Bowl last year. That's a fair point. And Brian Johnson would still be here. A lot of butterfly effects from that. And I think because the passing offense was a hell of a lot better last year than it was this year, to be honest. So that's an interesting part of it. But defensively as a whole, do you think it's sustainable to go through this thing with essentially 3 edge rushers, or do you need to get Bryce Huff back?
Yeah, that would be my biggest worry. I think Josh Sweat's a solid player. I think Nolan Smith has shown flashes this year, and he's been more consistent. I think he's always been pretty good against the run. And like as a pass rusher, he's starting to round out and play with a little more power. I think Alex Hunt's flashed, but I really do think they need another guy in that rotation. Especially in the playoffs. Less about like maybe like the snaps they're playing. I just think they need a little more juice. And like obviously Bryce Huff didn't play amazing this year, but I don't think it would have hurt. I do think there were moments in that stretch where they were saying he was hurt. Obviously, he was hurt now because he was on IR, where he was starting to flash a little bit. I think it would be good to get that fourth guy.
Bryce Huff's PFF numbers are shockingly good.
It's because he plays like 8 snaps. But I do think they need another guy because I just don't know if Nolan is good enough to take over a game yet. And I definitely don't think Jalix is there yet. And it would be my biggest concern. Like I believe in Josh Sweat, but it would be good to have another body in there. But the interior defensive line has been causing so much pass rush with Milton Williams and Jalen Carter, and you throw in more Ajoma in there, he could do some things as well. So maybe it's not as much of a pressing need, but that would be my biggest concern. The secondary keeps holding up too. We talk about why the pass rushes look better. The secondary's been so good that this pass rush group doesn't need to be amazing necessarily. So I'm not sure. It's weird. Like on paper, like I don't feel good about this group, but in terms of like production and the way they've been playing, because everything tied together, I feel fine about it. So I don't know. On paper, I'm like this group could be the thing that holds them back, but nothing I've seen so far tells me that.
Kaden, Russell Wilson, 6-0 versus Philly, 1-0 in the playoffs, 5-0 in the regular season. In Philadelphia, he's 4-0, 9 touchdowns, 1 pick. Is this guy the Eagles' kryptonite, and will they end that? They've been ending a lot of streaks this year, Kaden. Will they end the streak, or will Pittsburgh end the streak of not winning in Philly since 1965? How do you see this thing playing out? Russell Wilson coming to town.
Yeah, he's been their kryptonite in the past. In 2017, they beat the Eagles on the way when the Eagles made the Super Bowl, and he made some really good plays in that game. I don't know if Russ is the same athlete he used to, but it's just some of the off-script stuff that he did in that game and he's done in the past against the Eagles has been incredible. I don't know if he could do it to that capability. 2019, they lost in the playoffs. I don't know if that was kryptonite or that was just Carson Wentz getting hurt. I would lean more of Carson Wentz getting hurt, but Russ is.
They almost won that game with Josh McCown with a torn hamstring. Yeah. I'm pretty sure
the final,
they would have won
like
it.
16-9 or something. The final, I think, was.
Yeah. So Russ has been playing good this year, though. Kind of surprised the level he's been playing at after what happened in Denver. But I think if George Pickens is in this game, maybe it's a different story. But I really question how Pittsburgh's going to be able to move the ball on this Philadelphia secondary with the weapons they have. They got guys like Calvin Austin and Van Jefferson. None of those guys put fear into you. And Pat Freiermuth is a solid player. And just overall, this offense doesn't put fear in you. The only guy that does is George Pickens because whatever you want to think about him, he's an uber talented wide receiver, and he's the really go-to guy in this offense. You don't have him. I don't know if Russ is going to be able to work his magic. I think they're going to try to run the ball, establish it early on, almost play. They want to play
Carolina. They have to play like Chuba Hubbard with Najee Harris. That's what they have to, like 6-7 yards, not make mistakes. I'm with you. I said that this passing game doesn't scare me even a little bit. Their best players are really the tight ends. Freiermuth and Washington. Washington might be a problem if they get in the red zone because that dude is just
huge.
He's like Johnny Wilson sized height, can actually catch the football and
50 pounds heavier.
Yeah. I was gonna say.
Yeah. So he might be a problem if they get into the red zone. But Harris has got to have a good game, a Hubbard-like game, because he's not going to be Saquon. He's not going to be hitting home runs. But it's got to be like 6 yards, and that's tough to play that way. No mistakes. There can be no false starts, no holding penalties, no behind the sticks. Really, I talk about margin of error all the time. That's my problem with the Eagles' passing game. It decreases their margin of error. Pittsburgh offensively has a small margin of error. They're not explosive without George Pickens. Even with George Pickens, we act like George Pickens is Jefferson or something. even with that, they're not terribly explosive. I like this matchup overall from the Eagles' perspective. I think they match up well with this team.
Yeah, I do too. For that reason, I think kind of thinking about, I'd probably lean towards the Eagles winning. It's not going to be an easy game because we've mentioned the front seven in Pittsburgh, and I do think Pittsburgh's defense will be able to keep this a tight game. But if it comes down, this is a tight game. Whose offense do you trust more to make some big plays at the end? I mean, the Eagles got Saquon, but it could be one of those games. I think it could be similar to the Ravens where it's, a low-scoring game in the fourth quarter. It's 14-10 or something like that, Eagles, and I could see Saquon Barkley breaking off one big run. Like, that's how the Eagles play. I mean, stylistically, this matches. And this is even tougher than the Ravens because I like Pittsburgh's front seven better and offensive line. You used to say the Ravens offensive line, but I think
not anymore. Yeah, I agree with you. Yeah, Pittsburgh's pretty good.
Yes, so it's gonna be tougher to get that knockout punch, but I still think I trust the Eagles' offensive line. I trust the Eagles' defense and their physicality as well. I think it's one of those games where it's tight and the Eagles might pull it away, and it's not going to be a game. I'm going to be honest. I don't think it's a game where the passing offense is going to look amazing. I don't think I'm not slinging the ball. I mean, it might have to at times because Pittsburgh can stop the run, but I think the Eagles are going to win this in a tight, ugly, boring Sunday afternoon game.
Nice. Yeah, really sell it, Kaden.
Nice,
boring Sunday afternoon.
Well, I agree, Kaden, that I trust the Eagles offense to make a play late in the game more so than the Steelers offense. But defensively, I hate to say this, I would say that Pittsburgh's defense could be one to make a play late too. They're plus 17 this year, Kaden, in the turnover differential. Tied for first in the NFL. You're driving. Can TJ Watt make a play? That could, I think that could be a factor too late in the game. If you say it's an ugly game, maybe it becomes so ugly the defense wins the game late.
Yeah, it could be. And you look at their schedule. This is the crazy part. I mean, maybe they lay an egg in Washington, but other than this game,
they're going to run the table.
They could win out. I mean, maybe they'll rest their starters against at the end of the year, Giants, and maybe they'll lose to Drew Lock, Drew Lock versus Kenny Pickett. But this is the game. If you win this game,
by the way, we should mention this is the Kenny Pickett revenge game. We haven't mentioned that.
Yeah, Kenny Flickett going back home.
Yeah. So hopefully you don't have to see Kenny, but yeah,
they'll definitely be running the ball if that happens.
I wouldn't mind seeing a Week 18 with Kenny Pickett. Why not? See what he can do a little bit. I know, there's a lot of people who don't like Kenny. He won game. Everybody wins games in Pittsburgh. Mike Tomlin, 18 seasons, whatever it is, never had a losing season. Always seems to be head above water. Tremendous coach, great organization. So we'll end it there. Make sure you follow Kaden Steel on X. What is your tag? You don't have it up there, Kaden.
I think it's Kaden _Steel 19.
There we go. Make sure you follow him there. Read him at nj.com. More importantly, does a tremendous job there. Russell Wilson, as we said earlier, has never lost the Philadelphia Eagles. In a lot of ways, he's their white whale. They always talk about how badly they wanted him in the draft. I never bought that because he was the 75th pick. If you loved him that much, take him in the second round. So I never bought that. But they've always talked about how much they loved him in the draft. They've never beaten him. The Pittsburgh Steelers, on the other hand, never win in Philadelphia. It's been since 1965, I believe. So something's got to give. Now, the Steelers don't come here that often, so that plays into it. But something's got to give. What gives? Who's going to win the football game? Kaden Steel.
I think the Eagles are going to win. I think they're just a more talented football team. I think the difference is really, to me, I think defensively they're close, and I get Zander's argument, and because I believe it too. TJ Watt can make a play to change the game, and I do believe that. So I'm not saying this with a lot of confidence, but I do think the Eagles win a tight game, and the major difference is the Eagles just have more weapons on offense, and in a tight game, if someone has to make a play on the offensive end, I mean, you got A.J. Brown, Obviously, with everything that happened this week, you feel like they might try to get him more involved, and he'll make a splash play here and there. You got Saquon Barkley, the home run threat, Devontae Smith as well. I mean, I just don't think Pittsburgh has enough firepower for if they need to make an offensive play. I'm not sure who they're going to. I think Russ has been playing well. Also, I'm not a believer in records. I mean, maybe I don't. It doesn't matter to me that Russ has won 6 times. I think currently the Steelers just don't have enough firepower to win this game.
Yeah. How about Justin Fields? You throw him in there as a changeup. Does he frighten you?
No, not at all.
I'm with you.
Justin Fields coming out, but no, he doesn't frighten. He's not going to fix the passing problem for them.
No, he is not. You are correct there.
Yeah. Kaden, thanks for joining the show, man. Great talking with you. Good job covering the team this year. I've been enjoying all your work on NJ.com. We appreciate you joining today, and we'll catch up with you again soon. All right, brother?
Thank you, guys.
Yep. And it's at Kaden_Steel19 on X. That's a bad shot by me. I didn't have it up, so I had to fumble. But appreciate Kaden. Does a tremendous job, as he said, at NJ.com. So make sure you follow him. Check out his work.
Here we go, John. 3-0 this year versus the AFC North. Will they sweep the division? Johnny Mack.
Yeah, I think so. I don't
you
like.
tipped your hand on your prediction.
Yeah.
I honestly thought that this could be a week that maybe you chose the Steelers.
Yeah.
I was leaning.
I don't think they have enough firepower offensively to do.
I don't
things.
either, but they just seem to fucking win games.
They
Johnny.
do. Yeah, that's
figure
part
out
of
how to win games.
I mean, I wouldn't be surprised if I'm on the post-game show and they lose. I wouldn't be, because they're a good team and they have good players. And I mentioned, mainly the defensive side of the ball, but TJ Watt is a legitimate game wrecker. He's I think that term is overused. Not for him. I don't think it's overused. He can win a game defensively for you. Cam Hayward's one of the best interior players. Micah Fitzpatrick, one of the smartest, savviest safeties in the NFL. And facing a quarterback that's not exactly brimming with confidence, he might bait him into something.
Right.
So it's not like I can't picture an avenue where Pittsburgh can't win the game, but I just look at that offense and I say it's so limited. You got to believe the Eagles are going to have enough firepower, whether it comes from Saquon, whether it comes from some of the things during the week about getting the passing game going. And you have AJ, you have Devontae. They should be able to persevere with their offensive line against the Pittsburgh front at the bare minimum. So I like the matchup. I like the style matchup with Pittsburgh. And, I think the Eagles are going to keep it going. Maybe, but I agree with Kaden. It's probably going to be ugly. It's probably going to be a muck it up, close game in the fourth quarter, and then maybe Saquon does what he always does this season and breaks one, and all of a sudden there it is. Maybe it's 17-13,
right? And
then it becomes 24-13. They don't have the firepower to come back. That's sort of how I foresee it.
Yeah, I think that's pretty good. Make sure everybody drop your score predictions in the comment. I'll pull some up. Twiz says 20-17. Philly Don says 24-20 Eagles. We got a super chat here, and then John, we'll close with our final predictions. And we're not just going to do a game prediction today, okay? I want to do a Jalen Hurts stat line prediction and an AJ Brown stat line prediction. Let's get to the super chat, and then we'll do that. Matt NG, appreciate you, Matt. He says Jalen has shown proficiency with RPO. Start here, slow down a violent, aggressive defensive front. Also, if effective, it can help Jalen's urgency and tempo. Yeah, RPO becoming a bigger thing again now in Philly, John. What do you think?
That's not a fucking good thing. But yes, they're much better with tempo. They every week it's like they start and then they go to tempo and they start picking it up. And I mean, they're better. They're an RPO team, which is unfortunate. They wanted to evolve from that. Instead, they've devolved back to it. I don't think it's a positive thing long term, but you're trying to win games now. It's just about trying to get through each game and trying to get through the season and trying to put yourself in the best position. So I don't think there's going to be any drastic changes because of what happened this week. I think they're going to play the same way. I think they're still going to throw it 20 to 25 times. They just have to be more efficient when they throw it. And then, you know, it's a catch-22. How do you develop confidence in the quarterback? That's the difficult part. And that's, you know, again, maybe that's the wrong word. You know, get him in a rhythm is what Kellen said. So I'll use that again. Get him in a rhythm. Because right now he's not in a rhythm.
Yeah, no, he's not. Matt, thank you for the super chat, brother. We appreciate it. All right, it's officially prediction time here on Birds 365. Got to get some good ones already in the chat. Look at it, 16-13. That's a Kaden Steel ugly game right there. 24-23, 31-17 Birds, says the bro.
Give me a Steelers. Come on, somebody. Give me somebody.
27-21 Eagles, 27-13 Eagles.
Give me one Steelers.
38.
I'm going to have to turn it. 38-14. Come on, stop that.
Man in black. He's an Eagle honk. 28-16 Eagles. Kevin Savard says.
We can't get one Steelers.
Is anybody picking the Steelers?
Boy, do I have to pick the Steelers?
Johnny Mac's going to change up the prediction because nobody wants to pick the freaking Steelers. All right, John, what's your prediction? And then I want you to give me your Jalen Hurts and your AJ number prediction this week.
Now I'm going to pick the Eagles.
I'm making you, John. You can't have the drama of the week and then skate away from that prediction.
I'm going to pick the Eagles. I want to pick the Steelers now because nobody picked the Steelers. But
Flex is taking the Steelers.
All right, thank you, Flex. 24-16.
Hey, you got 24-17 Steelers.
I got good.
Yeah,
all right, we got a couple. 20. I'm gonna pick Eagles 24-16. Ugly game, like I said. I said 17, probably 17-16 late. Saquon breaks off a run. They don't have the horsepower to go down the field. So I think the Eagles are going to win the game. As far as passing, hey, I'm going over 108. I'm going
200.
No, I'm going.
No.
I'm going 175-ish. And AJ will have 78 of that. Somewhere in that range.
And what's that going to mean for the discussion next week on the show?
Same. It's not going to change. Not good enough. Yeah, I don't think it's getting fixed. If it does get fixed, it's not going to be in this game. It's going to be in Washington or against, you know, two dead teams, and more Dallas than the Giants, because they probably, one way or another, that game probably won't be important week 18. So I don't know if they're going to be able to fix it in week 18. So it's going to happen. It's really going to happen in Washington or against Dallas, which should be a glorified scrimmage, really, the Cowboys game. So we'll see. We'll see. Not getting fixed. It's not getting fixed. 5 for 137.
This is like a 30-yard average per catch, man in black. That is obscene right there. But I appreciate your fandom. This is Brian Fleming says Jalen 12 for 21, 133, 2 rushing touchdowns, AJ 5. That's our offense. That's right there. That's about what you'll expect right now from our offense. And
yeah, I think they're going to do a little bit better, but it wouldn't surprise me if it settles in at those numbers either. That would be, yeah.
All right, let me give my prediction out here. I'm going Eagles 27-24. I think they win on a Jake Elliott field goal.
Jake gets it back.
A 40-plus yarder, but he's not going over 50 because I think Nick will go away from it. For Jalen Hurts prediction, I'm going to predict he goes over 200 this week. I think he goes over 200 this week, and I think he'll probably complete.
He might be the biggest homer of all, 200.
Well, no, I mean, look, we've seen him do it so many times. Like you always say, John, is there a regression to the mean? You know, that could happen here. Hopefully, games at this number.
That seems like 400 now for this team. 200.
Like 200 passing yards isn't that many. How many that was last night was the ugliest game I've ever seen. How many yards did Brock Purdy throw for last night for Fox State?
He was awful. He was awful. Stafford was awful early. He was really bad
160 early for Stafford, 142 for Purdy. Good night. Last night.
It's like they never saw rain before.
And then A.J. Brown, if Hurts goes for 200, does that mean A.J. Brown has to go for at least 100?
If they're he'll be close to 100 at the bare minimum. If they go over 200, I mean, their whole passing offense is A.J. Brown. All of it.
I know.
And then, maybe a dump off to Saquon if they get to 200, there might be a 40-yard dump off to Saquon.
So, John, when I had some people join the show this week, Clary Voy was maybe amongst the one who was most critical of Jalen Hurts. And then he bounces back with this prediction right here. He goes 34-17, 265, 20 of 27, 55 rushing yards, 135, and a touchdown for AJ. Smitty 82, Barkley 1. I mean, Clary Voy, holy shit.
I admire the optimism.
He wasn't so optimistic when we talked, but I guess something changed. Man in Black, appreciate the super chat on the way out the door. He says, do you guys not remember AJ's career game was versus Steelers? He baptized the Steelers.
What does that have to do with it? Do people understand football at all? Like, I get it. It's exhausting.
Johnny Mack has to go. What's the agenda?
So in perpetuity, he's going to have great games against Pittsburgh because he had a great game against Pittsburgh. That's the thought process. I mean, yeah, I don't agree with that.
John, what's the agenda? You heading right down to NovaCare after the show?
Got to go.
Right.
Nick Sirianni, 11:40-ish, practice locker room. Yeah.
All right, Johnny Mac. Good stuff, brother. Great shows this week. We'll talk to you on Sunday on the pre- and post-game show, brother. Catch you then.
All right. Thanks, guys.
All right. Thanks, Johnny Mac. Johnny Mac joining in. Let me make sure I read everybody the final chats here on the show. And I don't want to miss any super chats. Did I miss any super chats today? All right. No missed super chats. Appreciate everybody today. Been a great week of shows here on JAKIB. A lot of drama in Eagle Land this week, which – I don't know. Maybe you guys don't like it, but I enjoy it because we got to do shows every day. So it gives us a lot to discuss and talk about and break down and talk about with you guys. So I've enjoyed it. I'm going to look for a couple more stat predictions here. JT says, morning, Eagles fans, Zander and John. I'll rewatch. Good stuff, JT. Appreciate you being here. Brother Philly Don says 18 for 24, 284, 2 tutties. AJ 7 for 120 and a tutty. Holy shit, Philly Don. You're expecting a bounce back of all bounce backs. 18 of 24. What is that, 75% completions? I don't know if he's doing that on a Mike Tomlin defense. I do not see that. All right, before I go, I want to remind everybody, and I want to promote this because I want everybody to be ready for it because I'm putting a lot into it, and it's all for the viewers who make this channel happen. The most important people on the channel are you guys. It's not me. It's not Sills. It's not Johnny Mack. It's you guys. And I am doing, I don't know what I'm calling it yet. I might call it JAKIB Christmas, but I don't know if I'm going to be able to do it before Christmas. That's the problem because Christmas is coming. It's already December 13th. I can't believe it. JAKIB Christmas will consist of giveaways like crazy. We're talking hats, jerseys, sweatshirts, Diana jackets, you name it. We're doing it. I'm looking at potentially 10 plus jerseys. 10 plus jerseys on the giveaway. Right now, as it stands, and I'm looking to acquire more. I got 2 AJ Brown jerseys. I got 2 Cooper DeJean jerseys. I got 2 Quinyon Mitchell jerseys. I got 2 Jalen Hurts jerseys and a Dawkins jersey. I think I just gave you 9. And then I also have a Saquon jersey. So that's 10. And I'm looking to acquire more. Then I got a Diana jacket. I told you I'm pretty sure I'm going to get that done. Those are very hard to come by, but I know somebody who is involved in them, and he said he was able to pull me one. So I'll see. And then I got hats. I got beanies. I got, the Salute to Service Eagles sweatshirts this year. They're my favorite sweatshirts every year, but this year they're freaking electric. I got 5 of them to give away. I got 5 of the Eagles Eagles sweatshirts that look like a hockey jersey. I don't know if you know what I'm talking about. So they're really dope. And I'm looking forward to doing it all. So we're going to do a big live stream, and you got to be a member to win. Yeah, JAKIB New Year might make more sense, Tyler, because that's closer to the end of the year. That might be what I'm looking at. But anyway, trying to give away as much stuff as possible. And we'll have a couple rules, nothing crazy. There won't be any crazy rules for it. You got to be present, though. That's going to be one of the things. So whenever we decide to set the live stream for, which I will gauge the community on, you got to be present. You're not going to be somewhere else and win. You got to be on the live stream to claim your prize in real time. And then call me Santa Claus this year, everybody. Big Santa. Big Z is now Big Santa. I'll be giving away stuff like crazy. So I'm looking forward to doing that. Listen, it's all for I want to do it because I appreciate the hell. And PI, I appreciate the hell out of what you guys do for JAKIB. But PI says, Krause's coach. PI, this is what I'm looking to do, because I do want to make it somewhat charitable. It's that time of the year, and January is our biggest month for coat giveaway. It's January and February, the coldest months of the year. So I want to give away as much. So PI, here's what I'm thinking. I'm thinking of any super chats that we get on that live stream. We're going to match every dollar, and every super chat dollar will be donated for a coat for Krause's coats. So if we raise $300 in super chats, JAKIB will I'll match it, and we'll do $600. If we get $1,000, I'll match $1,000. If we get $5,000, I'll match $5,000. $10,000 would buy so many coats for people. I mean, you're talking about potentially 500 to 750 coats that we can give away, brand new for veterans, for homeless shelters, for all the people who are less fortunate in the city. Right in Philly, we do it. We do it all in Philly. So I'm looking to work that in as well, because I want to do something. I don't want to make it just about, it's great for you guys, but I do want to do something charitable. I think that would be pretty cool to do. Man in Black, thanks for becoming a member, man. I appreciate that very much. That will be one of the catches, by the way. You got to be a member to win, man. You got to be a member to win. So get your memberships in. PI, get your membership in. Wombat, get your membership in. I'm looking forward to doing it, man. It should be really fun to do. I like some of the nicknames I'm getting right now. Santa Claus, Zander Claus, Xander Claus. I like that. All right. I'll rock that for the Christmas season. A little Santa Claus. JAKIB Christmas, JAKIB New Year, whatever we want to call it. But get ready, everybody, because that's a lot. There's a lot of giveaways. So we're going to have a lot of winners. I'm thinking we might have 20 plus winners on one show. 20 plus winners on one show. So that'll be pretty cool. And James Jones, you're a member. If you win something, James, if you get drawn as a winner, I will do something for you, because you are a tremendous supporter of JAKIB. I know you're a Commanders fan, which, boy, that sucks to root for that shitty franchise, that shitty fucking team. But I will do something for you, man. If you win, I'll order you a Commanders hat, get you something to give your daughter for Christmas or something. I don't know. I'll try and figure something out. And Nad, if Nad wins something, maybe I'll do something. He might not want 49ers gear at this point after that performance last night, but I'll do something for all the people that support this channel. If you support JAKIB, I support you. I don't care if you're a hater, a sucker, or a loser. If you support JAKIB, I support you, and I appreciate you being here. All right, I just wanted to promote that, everybody, because I wanted to give you guys a chance to get ready for that live stream. It should be a lot of fun, and I'm looking forward to doing that. One of the things I was thinking about that, and we were starting to organize it, and it honestly made me pretty excited to do. So maybe should I dress up as Santa for the live stream? Should I go full Santa, and start giving just, you get a gift, you get a jersey, you get a plaque, you get this, you get a hat, you get a sweatshirt. Fucking everybody's winning on JAKIB. Everybody's winning on JAKIB. All right, appreciate everybody, man. A lot of fun this week on the shows. We'll see what Cilio brings today, 2 to 6. Will he predict the Steelers? Will he predict the Eagles? I don't know. Johnny Mac and I both predicted the Eagles to win this game. I had 27-24. Yeah, maybe I shouldn't dress up as Santa. You guys, people want to start chucking batteries at me, man. Maybe I don't want to be Santa in Philly. Maybe I don't want to be Santa in Philly. But anyway, we'll be doing a lot of giveaways. The thing I'm most excited to give away is the Diana jacket. That might be one of the top prizes. So I'm going to do tiers. I'm going to have like the best prizes, the secondaries, maybe, which will be jerseys, and then hats, shirts, whatever else I can get my hands, sweatshirts, whatever else I can get my hands on. And then I'm working on a pair of tickets as well, and maybe multiple pairs of tickets if possible, to give away as well. So that should be fun. Looking forward to it. The Grinch is green. That's a good point. I don't anticipate me wearing a Grinch outfit if that's what you guys are expecting. But it's going to be a lot of fun. So looking forward to it, man. Appreciate you all checking in today. Hit that like button on your way out. Appreciate all of our great people who supported on Super Chats. And Man in Black became a member. Man in Black, appreciate it. Mike07 became a member. Mike, appreciate that. And for anybody else that contributed, liked, shared, subscribed, or dropped a comment in the chat. It means a lot to me, and I appreciate that. We'll catch you next time, everybody, on Birds 365.
You've been listening to Birds 365, the destination for the passionate Eagles football fan who bleeds green. If it's Eagles football, we're talking about it. Debate, inside the locker room, and guests that are some of the greatest football minds from around the region. We hope you enjoyed the show. We know we had a blast. Make sure to like, comment, and subscribe, and we'll be back soon. But in the meantime, hook up with us on social media at JAKIB Sports. See you next time on Birds 365.